What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Flash Season 6, Episode 10 Marathon. So, this is the first episode of Flash post Crisis, and I wasn't really sure what to expect. Just because, with the crisis being over, that was a big part of the first half of the season's story. And then the other half of the story was Ramsey and his whole Venom like blood work thing. And obviously, that story is done for now as well. So, I wasn't really sure what to expect. Like, what were we going to focus on next? So far, I just. For Barry and his story, it was nice. It was a good, lesson for Barry. Nice for him and Dig to have a moment on Leanne Yu talking about basically what Oliver is trying to show him with the mask of like, look, sometimes you do need to slow down. Sometimes it needs to be more about protecting the people around you than it is focusing on what's the next big mission. I like that story fine enough. The stuff with Cisco, I'm sad. It seems like he's not going to be on the show, at least for a little bit. I am sad about that because, The Flash without Cisco is like, I don't know, Batman without Robin. Like, sure, it works sometimes, but there are other times whenever you do need Robin as a foil. So, I'm going to be sad that he's not going to be there for a bit just because he is a good character and he has a lot of good lines. The acting is great from Carlos, I think. So, I'm sad that he's going to be leaving, but his story, I like it. What he's dealing with, this feeling of, if I were Vibe, maybe I could have done something about this. And I really thought, because they showed, after the crisis was over, they showed a bunch of other Earths, but they're claiming that there's only one Earth now, that there's no other universes and stuff. So I don't know if that's true, because they seem to show there are multiple Earths out there still. Or were they showing like, oh no, these are all of these different Earths that used to exist are now all on Earth Prime? I don't know if that's what they were implying, but yeah, I don't know. I thought that they were showing, no, now there are a bunch of different Earths that tie into the DC universe as a whole, like Titans and like, what was the other one? Stargirl. I thought that's what they were trying to imply, is now those are a part of the DC universe as a whole, but just on different versions of the world. But based on what Cisco is saying, it sounds like, no, there's only one Earth now, and everybody that existed in all these other universes and in the multiverse, it's now gone, and it's just replaced by this one Earth that now has all of them on it. So I guess I misread that at the end of Crisis. Either that or they don't know yet that the multiverse is still there. It's just different now. It's got different worlds than they're used to. But even if so, there is still the Harrison Welleses that they got to know are now gone. And that, when he said that, it did kind of hit me that, yeah, that's true. Like, all of those Harrison Welleses are probably gone or they're different now. And that does upset me a little bit because I did like Harry Wells and I like Sherlock. And I would have liked to see them come back, but they seem to be implying, no, they're done. Like, they're not coming back. And so he shifts some of the blame onto Nash, which Nash is also partially responsible because he's the one that released the Anti-Monitor. But he also takes the blame himself because he feels like he could have been Vibe and maybe done something about it. So I like his whole quest that he's about to go on, basically figuring out what new dangers there are out there, what things they need to be looking out for. I like the idea of that, but I feel like it's probably not something we're going to see. I feel like he's going to be doing it off screen. So I'm a little sad that they're deciding to do that instead. And then Nash, I don't really know what's going on with him. Apparently, I guess Allegra, we see he has a picture of him with her. Oh, goodness. I guess on another Earth. I still don't know what that story is. I assume we'll find out more about it as the season goes on. But of course, he's very worried about her not really letting too many people know that there is a connection there, whether it's his daughter or family or friend or possibly something else. I don't know. Obviously, if it's something else, it would be she was older on that other Earth, probably. If not, that would be a little weird. But that's basically all of the side stories going on. The main story is where I really have a bit of a snag. And the reason is this whole Black Hole Corporation thing. I don't really know how I feel about it. Because on the one hand, I guess it could be interesting, this corporation that's been kidnapping metas and training them for years. Um, Again, it's kind of weird that in some cases things did bleed over from the original thing. So apparently they still have been doing this even in this new timeline. So kind of interesting that they've been doing this for years and nobody has found out about it until now. So the fact that they managed to stay hidden for so long shows how sneaky of a corporation they are, and that shows the power that they have. The two things that are really putting me off: one, Iris and her little group of reporters are the ones that are basically taking them on. You know, like, I don't have a problem with Iris. I don't have a problem with Camilla. I don't have a problem with Allegra. But it feels like they are really pushing this whole, like, ooh, aren't they so cool, guys? They're reporters and they're taking down the big bad corporations. Yeah. And it just feels more like I don't know, like a kid's show of like, yeah, we're going to take them on. And in reality, they should all be dead. You know, if not for the fact that Cecile showed up and felt the presence of the assassin that was about to kill them all, they would be dead. But it's just like these chance encounters that keep popping up and keeping them alive, and it just sort of takes me out of it a little bit, because they do have so much power in this corporation that, yeah, three reporters, one of them has the power of UV radiation, but the other two are completely powerless. Yes, they obviously know superpowered people, but they're not really bringing them on board. This should be over. It should be over like that. But the fact that it's not, the fact that they're still managing to eke out these near-death experiences and, oh, they just got out of it, it does sort of take me out of it the more that they have these moments. So, not really a fan of the fact that it seems like Iris and her group are getting the main focus on taking them down right now, which I'm sure now that Barry is back, he'll help out as well. But then the other thing, too, is that we basically figure out who's behind it all in this episode. And it was very straightforward. You know, the guy that's the head of this McCullough tech or whatever, and I'm guessing, I don't know if he's McCullough or if the lady, this Eva that was running it, is the only McCullough, and he took over whenever she disappeared, which I'm guessing she's trapped in the mirror dimension. I don't know if that's a thing, but based on the fact that Iris got dragged into the mirror, I'm assuming that's what this possibly is. But I don't know, just he seemed like kind of a sleazeball, and I was thinking, okay, if they make him the bad guy and he's the one that set up for his own gun to be stolen, I feel like that's going to be very cliche. What did also take me, I guess, out of it a little bit as well is whenever he was talking to her and telling her, like, oh, you don't understand, like, we've got stuff going on with his, I can't remember what it was, but something to do with his wife, like, celebrating her or recognizing her. I don't remember what it was now, but Iris was like, look, I understand you have a, what was the term she used? Dang it. What was that terminology? Responsibility. That's not what she said. But essentially she said something along the lines of, I know you have a responsibility to your wife. And then she started to walk. I'm like, oh, let me guess, you have a responsibility to the truth? She looks at him. Exactly. But I have a responsibility for the truth. It wasn't responsibility. It may have been obligation. I don't remember what it was. But, like, it was basically what I was thinking is exactly what she said. So whenever she said that, there was a part of me that was like, okay, so he is going to be the bad guy then. Because if they are so blatantly obvious with these lines, surely their story is going to be blatantly obvious as well. So he stole it from himself to make it seem like this corporation was like working against him, but in reality, he's the one behind it. It's exactly what it is. Now again, whether he's working for this Eva lady and she's controlling things behind the scenes or she's trapped, I don't know what all is going on. I don't know all the intricacies and the details, but it feels like we got a big part of the mystery just solved in this first episode, that we really had them looking into it, you know, because they brought up a little bit of it before the crisis, and now all of a sudden one episode we look into it and we've already figured out, all right, well, this guy appears to be either the head of the group or one of the heads. We know he's involved. We know his company is probably the one that's providing all of this funding and these researches and experiments and stuff. Seems pretty simple. So I don't know. I hope there's something else there, but it doesn't really get me interested. I will say too, on the topic of Iris herself as a character, I don't mind whenever she goes out in the field. I don't mind whenever she tries to do the reporter thing and get some information by snooping around, sneaking in. One, I will say it is weird that she just managed to sneak into these offices late at night without any issues. And that seems a little odd to me, just because you would think they would have guards, they would have locks on the doors, they would have all of this stuff to make sure she can't just snoop around. So how does she get past all of that? But then also, I feel like she should at least let Barry know. Because yes, she is capable of handling herself in most fights, but she doesn't have any powers. So if she faces off against a meta, she's going to lose that fight. You know, again, they keep managing to get her out of these near death situations, but in reality, she would have died multiple times already because of the way she flings herself into these fights that she's not going to win. And then they manage to like get her out of there luckily because they narrowly miss her with whatever. And I don't like when they do that because it's not realistic. You know, and I know they want to show, oh, Iris is super powerful, but she's not super powered. You know, she doesn't have extraordinary abilities. She's just very brave and she's willing to snoop and sneak and report on stuff. That's fine, but don't show her getting into fights with metas because she's going to lose. And yet you still show her winning most of those fights, and it takes me out of it because again, it's just not a realistic thing. Because I'm not going to be able, and if I had all the courage in the world, I'm not going to be able to go into a fight with one of the best boxing legends in the world and take him down just because of my spunkiness. You know, that's not how it works, and they keep showing that is how it works in this world. So I don't know. I just don't like it whenever they do that, and it feels like that's really what they're starting to do, especially this season with Iris, is showing her really going out there, putting herself in these dangerous situations, but still getting out of it okay because she's Iris, guys. She's smart and she's spunky, and that's enough, even if the bad guy is way more powerful than she is, of course. So, but yeah, those are my complaints with it right now. Hopefully it gets a bit better as the end of the season goes on, but I don't know. We'll see. That's it for this first episode. On to the second of these three. See you there. Now, episode 11, Love is a Battlefield. Oof. Oof. That one was rough on many levels. First of all, let's just go ahead and get the worst story out of the way. Everything to do with Allegra and Frost. I mean, I know what they're showing here. I get that they're showing more connection between Nash and Allegra. We're seeing more that obviously this is, I think it's very clear now that this is his daughter from another, or was his daughter on another Earth. So there's that connection, and he looks, I don't know if she's going to be his actual daughter or if she's somebody that he saw as a daughter, like maybe she worked with him. But either way, obviously there's that connection he cares for her. So that's basically what we get out of this. But there's just so much going on outside of it that just so dumb. Like why do we gotta spend so much time on her? Oh, she liked this boy. He was in a band, and then they were together. But then she didn't want to tell him that she was a meta, so they couldn't work things out. And she ghosted him. But now he's back, and then he's seeing the bartender at Jitters, or not bartender, barista. Who cares? I mean, really, who cares? I mean, my God, I don't have any issues with Allegra, but God, why do they have to make their Valentine's Day episodes most of the time so bad? Because they're really, really bad when they're bad. But yeah, I don't know. There are just a couple scenes that didn't work. Like again, having him start chatting up the barista at Jitters was just so cliche and sitcom-y. It was just stupid, really. And then when she's talking to Frost later and explaining everything that's going on, the weird thing about it was like she was explaining what happened and explaining that they went out on a few dates. And then Frost's like, well, what happened? She looks up at a wreath that has like a heart symbol on it. And Frost just goes, you didn't want to tell him you were a meta. How did you come to that conclusion? Like, I don't know if it was something that she had made with her powers, or if she had looked maybe at Star Labs. I don't know. If she had done anything that hinted towards her meta powers, that would have made more sense. But she looks up, again, at a wreath that has like a little heart thing on it. And I don't know, Frost somehow pieces together, I see what you looking at that means. It means you don't want to tell him you were meta. How? How does that make sense? So that was all really dumb. And then everything to do with Iris and Barry. I mean, we could have some interesting dialogue here, except for the fact that this is not Iris, and I knew it wasn't Iris throughout the entire episode. So why did we play it like, oh, she got out of the mirror and she's fine now? No, obviously this is a different version of her. This is the mirror, I guess. I don't really know exactly how this is going to work. But throughout the entire episode, they're dealing with this relationship drama between her and Barry, which I still like them as a couple, but this is all put off by the fact that I know this isn't the real Iris. Like, obviously, this is not the real Iris. If they hadn't shown her getting pulled in by the mirror thing, then we could have had some interesting dialogue here. We could have had some interesting moments. But we saw her get pulled in, so of course my first thought is, well, this is probably just a mirror version of her or something like that, like a clone, basically. And by the end of the episode, we see, yep, the real Iris is still trapped in this, I'm going to call it the mirror dimension. I don't really remember the mirror dimensions from Doctor Strange. That's why I'm thinking of that. Again, I don't know why these DC shows are making me think of Marvel. But again, I think mirror dimension. I don't get it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff would have been more interesting if we thought it was the real Iris, and then we find out later it's not. Or if it was, like, if it actually is the real Iris, and she does feel like Barry doesn't appreciate her, which, I mean, on that same note, if this were the real storyline of what this episode was trying to show us, then I would posit that she got out of a lot of these situations by luck, by somebody happening to be there to save her life. So she should be dead, realistically. But because this is a show and they don't want to kill her off, they write these little conveniences that just happen to work things out, and then she doesn't die. So if this were a real story, I would still have problems with it because it doesn't make sense realistically, because she should be dead, and the fact that Barry has to keep saving her proves that, yeah, she's not really fit to go into all these dangerous situations. She is capable of going and helping, but she should not just be running headlong without any care, hesitation, warning, just basically running in with no protection and just jumping right into the danger pool. You're going to end up dead. If Barry's not there to help you, you're going to end up dead. So, but again, this is not the real Iris. So this whole, even though that's not a real conversation, like, it just, this whole topic of things are rough between them would not be or would be more interesting if this were the real Iris. And if I didn't know throughout the whole episode that this is not the real Iris. So it felt really dumb, contrived, and obvious to me. So yeah, I don't know. It just seemed pointless. It felt like we could have done some more interesting things with this episode, like trying to figure out who this new Iris is. If they had done something along those lines, because Barry even is like, wait a minute, your food doesn't taste terrible, and you like freshly squeezed orange juice? You now speak Italian? Like, all of this stuff, I'm thinking, okay, Barry, clearly there's something wrong here. Put on your thinking cap, bud. You should know your wife. You should know that this is not your wife, and yet still does not. I don't know. Just this episode was bad. This episode was really bad. I know I'm not really conveying all of my thoughts very well, but a lot of that is just because, one, I'm tired, and two, it was really bad in the sense that I can't really form all of my thoughts about it clearly and speak them, because it just, so much about it just didn't work. And I'm sitting here going, how could the writers of The Flash get so much wrong? It's really thrown me off, to be honest. I don't know if they borrowed some of Arrow's writers since that show is now ended. I don't know if maybe they brought some of them over. They're like, hey, could you write an episode for us? And the Arrow writers came over like, yeah, we'll write something for you. Ooh, so now Iris and Barry are going to get into a fight. Oh, but this isn't the real Iris. Shh, don't tell the audience. They don't know it's not the real Iris yet, because we showed her like everything was fine, even though she got sucked into a mirror place. So this is the real Iris, guys, and there's nothing wrong anymore. She's not even gonna talk about it. So this is the real Iris, okay? Just trust us on that. Yeah. Then we're gonna write all this conflict and Amunet Black is back, which I didn't even talk about her. Oh my God, she's still just as awful as I remember her. Just the I'm gonna talk like this the whole time. And yes, I'm going to show just how many teeth are in my mouth. Because that's all my gimmick is wide eyes and big teeth. Oh, she's so annoying to watch. And they do this whole stupid thing where she and, what's his name, Goldface are fighting the whole time. Which, of course, because it's the CW and they're bickering all the time, again, more sign the Arrow writers are here because the Arrow writers have shown us, and Supergirl and Batwoman, anytime you bicker constantly with someone, true love. It's true love. Yeah, that one person that you think you hate and you constantly argue with each other, because it's true love. Maybe in middle school, maybe in elementary school, when you're kids and you don't know what these feelings are because your immature brain can't understand and comprehend what love is and what attraction is. Yeah, sometimes you argue, you throw rocks at little girls, you throw dust on them, you pick on them, because you don't really get why you're so infatuated with them. You just think, oh, well, I'm just going to pick on them because I don't get it. These are adults. If you're constantly arguing as adults, you don't love each other. Just going to throw that out there. If you can't connect, if you're constantly bicker, there's probably, you may be attracted to them. That doesn't mean you love them. Because if you love them, then you work through the arguments. You don't just constantly yell at each other. Gah. Love it whenever a Valentine's Day episode does not understand the true meaning of love. Brilliant. So yeah, awful episode. Probably one of the worst in Flash of all time. So, on to the next one. We'll see you there. And finally, episode 12, A Girl Named Sue. It's okay. Again, pretty clear and obvious to me exactly what was going to happen. Like, when he met Sue and she started talking about, oh, I've got this boyfriend, he's very dangerous, and we didn't see any hint of him involved. I'm just thinking, okay, so more than likely she's playing Ralph, right? Like, she wants to get to his secret stash of something. And I guess the only thing I didn't really call in all of that is that apparently she's been researching Ralph and she actually led him to her. I didn't know that part, but basically everything else I was spot on for. Like, it's just very cliche. It's been done. So, not a big fan of that. The stuff with Iris and Ava inside of the mirror, kind of interesting. I don't really know what to think about it at the moment. I mean, there's definitely... I don't really know what to expect, so there's that, I don't honestly know. What's weird about it to me is the fact that for some reason Iris was pulled in, and because she was pulled in, it created a copy of her, basically a mirror image of her. And now that version of her is out and walking around and pretending to be her, wants to get her hands on the mirror gun for whatever reason. Still don't really know what this version of her, like what her goal is. She just is kind of, I don't know, like researching black hole maybe. I don't really understand her goal at the moment. I will say for Barry's side, it's weird to me that he doesn't suspect something is up. Because not only is this Iris suddenly doing all this stuff that she wasn't able to before, just out of nowhere, but also he tells her that he doesn't want to get her the black hole gun. And then she acts all like, no, it's fine. It's okay. Whatever. I'm fine. Just really gets all childish and petty about, like, in her response. And then avoids talking to him at the CCPD. And all I can think is, really, Barry? Like, you really think that your wife is this petty? Like, yes, Iris at times can get frustrated, but she's never the type of like, oh, I'm mad at you, so I'm just not going to talk to you. Like, she's not that type of person, and yet Barry is just fully on board with like, oh no, this is Iris, guys. This is definitely Iris. Like, it seems weird to me that he's not questioning anything about her right now. So that's something that's kind of bothering me about this whole thing. But yeah, as far as Ava's concerned, though, I don't really know what's going on with her. because something pulled Iris in, so I would assume it would be her. And she can appear to control the mirror, but maybe she doesn't know what she's doing. Maybe she just saw somebody and she's like, I want somebody to talk to, and brought her in. So I don't know if she's good or bad, but the fact that there wasn't a mirror image of her created tells me that when she was pulled into the mirror, this was not something in the mirror world did this to her. I think it's something that she got sucked in, and then what happened to Iris was done probably by her. So that's just kind of my theory at the moment. I still don't really know if this is like she's evil and she wants to take over the world or whatever. Maybe she wants to get back at her husband for basically leaving her in there. I don't know. But it could also just be, again, like she saw somebody right outside the mirror looking into it. And so she's just like, ooh, somebody that I can talk to. And so she just, the power, the emotions inside of her are what pulled Iris in, because she wanted somebody else with her. Not necessarily like an evil, like, ooh, I can get somebody to help me get out of here and then I can use these newfound powers. And I don't know. I guess we'll see what's going on with her later on down the line. But yeah, as far as Sue is concerned, I'm not really that intrigued. Apparently she has connections to Black Hole somehow. The diamond that she took from this random mob guy, for some reason had the Black Hole symbol inside of it. So I don't really understand that. I don't get how they're connected to this mob guy. I can't even remember his name now because I just kind of don't care. When she brought him up, there was a part of it just like, okay, so you're not showing him, so I'm not going to believe anything you say about it. I'm not even sure if this mob guy even exists, but apparently he does. But I guess he has connections to Black Hole because then Allegra's cousin shows up. Forget her name now. Esperanza. There we go. I think they call her Ultraviolet. But she shows up at the end to fight them. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess we're connecting Sue to the main story. I was curious to see what Sue Dearborn's story was going to be since Ralph has been looking for her for so long. So the fact that it's just as simple as, no, she's pretending to be gone because she's a thief and she's doing all this other stuff outside, I don't know, it kind of makes me less interested in her story. I'm hoping that there's something there. I'm hoping that there's something interesting there. But for the moment, I'm just kind of on the fence whether or not I'm really intrigued by her story or not. But aside from that, there is another possibly interesting story with, apparently there's somebody in the CCPD possibly helping Carver with everything he's doing because Joe was seeing all of these old case files that were ruled as accidents, but they've looked into it and apparently there was something else going on. It appears that Ultraviolet maybe burned down the house with her powers, and then some cop just looked at it and said, nope, that's an accident. So there's a possibility that there's a mole inside that's kind of keeping Carver away from the spotlight and making it seem like all of these are just accidents. So that has the potential to be an interesting story. And then the other one that has the potential is whatever Nash is going through at the moment. Because we see, I didn't talk about it because the last episode was so bad, I forgot about talking about it. But there was a moment at the end of it where he saw what looks like, I guess, Harry Wells. And in this one, we see Harry Wells again. And it apparently is in his mind and is talking to him and just basically telling him, like, you're lying to her. Why don't you just tell the truth about what's really going on? So I don't know what's really going on. He takes the book from Harry Wells, the diary, I guess, of Harry Wells. I don't know if this is possibly some bleed over from what happened, during the crisis with Harry Wells's universe being gone now. I don't know if maybe that's bled over into this current universe. I will say something that I don't know if we'll see anytime soon, but obviously Jessie, his daughter, was also a speedster. Jessie Quick, I think her hero name was. And I think I remember Jessie and Wally had a bit of a thing, if I'm not wrong. We haven't actually seen Wally for a while. I mean, he joined the Legends for like a little bit and then was just off the show. So I don't really know where he is. I don't know what he's been doing. But the fact that Harry Wells has now shown up, and the fact that honestly they focused on him the most. When Cisco was berating Nash a couple episodes ago, Harry Wells was the one he brought up, and Jesse as well, which is why they're on the forefront of my mind. He didn't reference Sherlock. He didn't reference any of the other Wells that showed up. The one that was not really a genius, but more like artistic and outside of the box thinker. We haven't referenced either of them, so I do wonder if the fact that Cisco specifically mentioned Harry and Jesse, if that means we're going to be seeing something about them through Nash's story, or if there's something else going on that we haven't seen yet that is going to come into play later on this season. But I don't know. It feels like there's still a lot that we can explore with this new Earth, with everything that's been combined together. I'm intrigued. I definitely want to know more about it. And I hope they talk about it soon, because honestly, it feels like we're just sort of biding our time. A lot of these stories, I feel like we could have spent more time, again, focusing on what the aftermath of the crisis was, instead of just essentially setting up this new big evil corporation that we got to take down. I don't know. It feels like it's a lot of unfocused things. I hope we can sort of bring it back to where the focus should be, and that is sort of what happened after the crisis and, again, the aftermath of it, and really what the consequences were. So I guess we'll see what comes next. But as far as these 3 episodes are concerned, I mean, not a great start after Crisis. I was hoping that things would get really interesting, but it feels like they're sort of unsure of what they really want to talk about next. Obviously, the Black Hole group are the center of it all, but it feels like they're also talking about a few other things here and there, and they're not really digging into what Black Hole is. So I don't know. I hope that they can bring the focus back into one main story. But that's a bit... having trouble talking. That's about it for me, though, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.